All right, so today we're going to be talking about raised wicking beds. And this is a different type of garden system that you can create. We previously had done this before, and it was done also before I got to Taylor County also. But the whole idea behind it, and you all will see as we talk more about it today, but you're going to be having a reservoir at the bottom of the raised bed, and then also I always like to water on top too, but this really helps in the summer where we've got our raised beds by the side of the extension office. There's a lot of concrete there. We do have some grass, but it really can help. It's not going to be 100% all the time to be able to help you do all of your watering needs. But I was just really interested. We got this in an email. It's been several weeks ago, but it was by Steve Higgins, and he did this. It's AEN 158, and we actually did this with our master gardeners. So I'll let you see what we were working with starting out. You can still see a little bit of garlic here on the side of these containers here, but these were donated to us. They were not pressure treated, nothing like that, and they were starting to fall apart. So these here were probably put in about maybe 6 or 8 years ago. We were kind of surprised that they lasted that long. But whenever we removed these, the bottoms were starting to rot out of them. And then also they did have the tops that the containers came with on the bottom of them, and those were completely rotted. There's a little bit left, but not very much at all. So this one actually got busted a little while ago. So that's why I was really interested in this set of instructions on how to make this particular one, because it used different material than we actually used for these here. I did not set these up, but we did do these at the recovery garden that's at the healing place here in Campbellsville. So that was the before. This right here, see, this is sort of a list of everything that we used whenever we were making it. Now, I kind of changed a little bit. I'm bad about not always going by the instructions or the recipe, but I sort of made it to where it would fit with what we had. So the main thing was I went to Lowe's and got a pond liner, and the one that was in the instructions, it was a little bit larger than this one, but there wasn't one at Lowe's that actually fit what it was calling for. So I went and I got the 10 by 13 pond liner, and that's going to be one of your biggest expenses. The soil, it just depends. If you have a lot of soil that you can use on your property to start out with, you can use that instead of having to buy all of it. So that's where your biggest expense will be, but it's one of the most important ones. If you look at, let's see, the previous one, you can see that it was just a very thin piece of plastic here that was used, and they actually put a landscape fabric on top of it, and the plastic, sometimes it would hold together, but as we were disassembling this, it was kind of breaking apart with us. So the pond liner is worth its money. I would highly recommend putting the pond liner in there. So if we just go through this, of course your wood, depending on if you had any to be able to use to start with. I bought mine new at Lowe's, so that's why, of course, lumber prices are jumping up like crazy too anyway. So you may be able to get your wood at another location. But this right here, I used 6, and I did shorten these. It did call for longer 2 by 12s. It did call for longer, but to be able to utilize this size of a pond liner, I got the 2 by 12 by 8. and I used 6 of those. And then you're going to need 2x4s. I got two 2x4x10s. If you could get like a 2x4x8s, you'll have a little bit less wood, wasting. I did have some left over. So you can, again, if you have any scraps, anything, but I will say you need to have treated wood anytime you are making something like this. But the pond liner is going to go over it, but it will help to last longer. The PVC pipe, this right here, and I'll show you, you'll be able to see, but one of these is going to be your fill. So your 2-inch PVC pipe, it's about 2 feet tall, and it's going to be your fill where you will be filling up with water, that reservoir. And then the 1.5 inch, you can also go to an inch PVC pipe. That's going to be your overflow, and then putting a 90-degree elbow on the end of that. You don't have to put that elbow on it, but I think it looks a little bit nicer where it sort of has like a little spout coming out of it instead of just a PVC pipe sticking out. The lag screws are very important. The 5/16 inch is really good. It held it together really good, and I got 2 boxes of those. The nails, I'll show you what those look like, but they did really good for the pond liner. Before, I had just used a staple gun. You can also do that too, but the nails did really good for us this time. I just thought I'd try it out. Drainage pipe, I got, and it's the kind that'll come off of a gutter. And I got some that just had the slits in it, but I'm going to go in, we're going to drill a few holes in it. You can also get it pre-drilled, but there was quite a bit of a cost difference. So I got the cheaper version of it, and we'll just drill a few more holes in there. And then the soil, again, the only thing I would recommend is for you not to use any existing soil. I would try to get new, or like if you've got, some in your garden that you have not had a disease outbreak, like, your tomatoes have not been in there. If you've got some new soil that's not been contaminated, you could use that. So a lot of these that are really high priced, you can work around that. Just the main thing, the pond liner, I would not really skimp on that. And you might be able to get a better price on that pond liner, but I would not revert back just to like black plastic. Oh, and my full dimensions was about 3.5 by 8 feet long. So this is where we were getting started. Like I said, we did have the master gardeners. They came out and helped me with this. So this is just us measuring and cutting the boards to the appropriate lengths. With the 2x12s by 8s, we only had to cut 2 of those in half, and then the others were fine. The other 4 we didn't have to worry about at all. And then we just cut the 2x4s. And then this here, this is where we are starting to put them together. So always pre-drill anything, always pre-drill. So this is pretty thick wood. So we would put, this is actually the brace. So we took this brace here, and if you look in the AEN 158 raised wicking beds, it'll also show some diagrams of how it's all coming together also. But this is one of the braces, and we would drill on both sides. So we would put 2 screws, let's see, right here. So this is that brace that you were seeing in the previous picture, and we would put 2 screws over here on this side in this plank, and then 2 screws over here, trying to offset them a little bit so we wouldn't hit them as we were drilling them in. Pre-drilled everything, pre-drilled on these boards right here. And then also we took and we had this brace up against it too. As we were drilling, that drill bit would come through and make a mark on this brace. Then we would take it out, pre-drill this again, because we were finding if we went ahead and tried to put the screws in, it wasn't the hole that we had drilled into this brace was not enough. It wasn't deep enough. And then also it was just a lot harder to try to get them in and actually go. So we did that. And then also, whenever you are doing this, you're going to run into issues, of course, of the boards being warped. You can look at them as much as you want, and you're still going to have some that's not completely flat. So that's what you're seeing right here. We got it as tight as we possibly could, though. We did use a drill that had a socket bit on it to be able to get these in tighter. Also, we had a lot of people. We just have 2 people back here, but some of them we had to have a few more people holding it, making sure that it was really strong in all in the exact and correct areas. We also had a few of these scraps 2x4s that we would put at the bottom, and someone would like hold their foot up against it. So this, like I said, this is a really good project for master gardeners to be able to help with this. And we're hoping to do more of these too at some point. This area here, we actually assembled it in just like right over here to the left. And then some master gardeners, they cleared this area here, leveled it down, and then we carried the bottom level over, and then we assembled the top on over here, because the wood, it is pretty heavy. So I would recommend like getting the initial outline of it started, of that bottom piece, and then moving it to your final location and then putting the top pieces on. That really helped us. So this is the liner, the pond liner that we had, and we left quite a bit of excess in the bottoms and on the sides. We did cut some of it off around the edges, but as you fill it up, like with the pipe and then also all of the soil, we wanted to make sure that it was not going to pull any. It had plenty of excess to be able to utilize as it was filling up and starting to get larger. We did not want it to be under stress in any area, pulling a lot and then causing it to, possibly buckle or something like that. Oh, and I also want to mention right in here, I did not take a picture of that, but we also put a brace right here in the middle. Sometimes boards over the years may warp and bow even more. So right in the middle, we took another brace, and all of these are 2 foot. We cut them at 2 feet each. So we put 2, like one here and then one on the inside right over here also. So hopefully that'll continue to help it to be strong. And then this is where I'm just going around and nailing it in. So you can see the little nails right here. This was taken on, let's see, Tuesday, I think, after we got a little bit of rain. But these are the little nails, and they actually have the little washers, rubber washers on the sides. And you don't have to get these. Like I said, you can use a staple gun as well. But these are the drainage pipes. I do need to get about 2 more. I think in my list, I put possibly 7 drainage pipes. You might want to do 8 just to make sure you have enough. But I'm going to have to go back and get 2 more of these here. But they did have slits in them. And then, but we're going to go in and drill a few more holes in them just to make sure that you have enough water. And how this is going to work, let's see. Okay. There's going to be, and you'll see it in just a few more slides, but there's going to be a PVC pipe right here or in one of the corners, and we're going to have it going down, and it's going to connect into these pipes here. And because these have holes drilled all through them, or they're going to, that's going to allow you to be able to take a garden hose, fill up that PVC pipe. It's going to go down into this reservoir and have water all the way through here. Now, the previous ones that I showed, the one that I showed at the very beginning, it did not have these pipes. It had one PVC pipe going down and had holes drilled in it. And then it had rock, gravel on top of it, and then a piece of landscape fabric on top of that. And all of this was within the plastic casing. That it does do pretty good. The only issue is if you're going to try to really get rid of it, that can be a problem. And then because it took us forever to try to get all of that rock out whenever we were removing that one from this area here. So, I mean, it's worked pretty good for us, but you know, it had some problems. It wasn't foolproof, so that's why we were so excited to try this one here to see if it was better. So this one here, the corners are tricky. So just like wrapping a present, and it looks a little bit better on the side as I took that other picture, I think in the slide after this. But you've got, I tried to wrap it as tight as I could around the corners here. I put several nails here to hold it in place. We do get quite a bit of wind through here, so I tried to put them pretty close on the corners, but I did space them out a little bit more on the edges. But you just, and I did cut some of this off. It was hanging down like a foot or and a half on down below here. So I trimmed all of that up, tucked all of it up underneath here to what was left, and then just tacked it in here. So this is where the corners look a lot better over here. You can see the existing corners over here that I have not finished yet. So you can see all of that I had to cut off and just tuck and fold up in here to be able to get it more of a tight corner here. But this is what you're looking for. And that just helps with wind where it's not whipping around and, you know, causing a lot of problems. But I will go back in and fix these here. So that's why I don't really have a before and after, but I do have an almost after. So I still need to get the extra pipe to finish that out. We'll go back in and drill a few holes in that. And then we have to finish the corners and then add in the growing medium. So right here, this is what I was talking about, the overfill. This is the drain that if you do not put that in, it's going to eventually just fill all the way up and spill over or cause a root rot in your plants or something like that to happen. So you don't want that. You always want to make sure that any flower pot, any container that you have has a drain. So I'm going to put it probably on this side over here. I'm going to drill it using a hole saw, and it just makes a circular hole with it. And I do have some of those from when we were making those other raised beds, but I'm going to put it on the back or on the side over here. Make a hole here, try to get close to the top on this level here, but probably right about in there, but on this side. So I'm going to drill a hole there, and then whenever I insert that PVC pipe, I'll have to cut, you know, a slit into the pond liner to be able to slide that through. But then that's going to be our drainage. So we're going to be able to fill it up here. So that's why I was talking about. Now we're going to drill a hole in this to make sure that it's secure right in here, and attach it. But we're going to be able to utilize this to fill it up, and then it'll fill up this whole reservoir here. And then whenever it gets completely full, and if the soil gets, you know, saturated too, it's going to be able to drain out of this PVC pipe here. The soil fill. So this is what was recommended by the publication. So it started out with peat moss at the very bottom where we had been putting gravel before. And I was thinking about putting some landscape fabric above the pipes, the drainage pipes down there at the bottom. But then it said you may need extra peat to go around the pipes, and that way it will wick it up. And I thought, well, if I did do landscape fabric, that might cause the soil not to be able to wick it as well. I'm not sure, but that got me to thinking I might not need to put that landscape fabric down, and I'll just be using the peat moss there at the bottom. It was calling, publication was calling for equal parts of all three of these, except with the little extra of the peat moss. So you have peat moss on the bottom, and then compost next. So that would add a lot of good organic matter to your little garden, and then potting media on top. And again, I always try to switch out my potting media each year. We're going to be putting tomatoes in this, and tomatoes, a lot of times it's easy to get disease in them, also peppers. So we try to switch that out as much as we can each year, because it's easy to just go back with the same type of crop or the same family group. It seems like everybody wants to grow tomatoes in containers. So also the main thing with these gardens is you need to always make sure that you don't forget about them. Make sure the reservoir is full, and then also make sure you water from the top as well. If you just water from the bottom, it's not going to work. It's just a tool to help aid you in trying to get as much moisture as you can to those plants, because a lot of times if you've got containers next to concrete, blacktop, a building, it's easy for them to dry out. So the more tools that you have, the more things you have to work with and trying to help that, especially in the heat of the summer, is really good, I think. So that's why I've always tried to do something like this whenever I'm doing a raised bed, and just always remember trying to get water, on top too. And that's all that I have about this. But I will say a few things about, I'm going to try to use this as a program, being able to do this. I know the library reached out to me today about doing a garden class, like a beginning gardening class. So we're going to utilize this within that program, being able to demonstrate, how do you plant. Well, first of all, what are some things that you can do for a container garden or a raised bed? So we're going to discuss the structure to start with, and then we're going to talk about planting, how to plant transplants, how to plant onions, how to plant lettuce, all kinds of things like that. So we're going to do that. And then also, this has been a really good tool for the master gardeners because it's a demonstration garden. So they're able to use this for their hours. They can help me with the Taylor County Library program. I know we'll be able to use this for 4-H kids for years from now. And we do utilize this, the vegetables that we grow in these gardens through FCS programs, FNet programs. So it's, if you haven't put one in your extension office, or if you're a homeowner and you don't have a raised bed, it's really good. I do recommend them because they're easy to weed, easy to take care of. You don't have to go out and till the garden. That can be quite an ordeal sometimes. So just starting small scale really helps a lot of people.